Darlings, and welcome to Greenwood Talks episode 43. So tonight's question, um, where is it? Of course, I just managed to click the wrong button and click it away. Here we go. This is from YouTube user Hey Sobe. I'm probably mispronouncing your name. I apologize, darling. Who asks, "Dear King Thranduil, describe love." Well, you don't pull punches, do you, darling? That's a difficult one. How does one describe love? Um, Love is something I think that it encompasses both the mind, the body, the heart. There's a very large emotional component to love, which ends up giving you physiological responses, and I think it can be difficult to sort of pass out what type of love, because there are many types of love, of course. We can have love for one's family, love for one's friends, and of course for someone you want to be more intimate with, and all these things are I mean, they're all very strong types of love, but there's sort of there are differences, but the lines can be blurred as well. I think a lot of times when we choose a lover for ourselves, it's someone who we feel that they can be our closest friend, but they're even more than that. And so that line can really get very muddy very quickly. As far as family, your family you can love in a way that you also love your friends, or your friends can be loved so much that they sort of become family. It's very difficult to even talk about types of love, and there's so many, and everyone experiences them quite differently. And I'm not just talking about a dwarf will experience it different from a hobbit will experience it different from a man. I'm just saying every individual will experience it differently. It's just the way it goes. So I think it's hard for one single person to describe love on a whole. I can certainly talk about my experiences with love, but I'm going to probably get some more drink first. You know, the thing is, darling, so love, I think, is very different sort of as an experience for elves as opposed to other races, because we have a very different sort of relationship with our emotions. From what I can tell, of course, I haven't been another race to really know for sure. But when we feel that emotional attachment to someone, it's not just sort of something that can come and go very easily. I've observed, and perhaps this is wrong, but what I've observed we'll just pick men for instance, is that they can love very, very strongly, but small things can cause that to be affected. The husband will go off with another woman, which, as far as we elves are concerned, that would make her a second wife, but it's not my culture to talk about. And the wife will no longer love him the same way. I mean, I can understand the feeling of betrayal, of course, but you know, a lot of times it seems like, and again, I could be perfectly wrong, it seems as though after that point, the love is just sort of dissolved. There's some murky feelingness there, but overall, it's just sort of dissipated. And I can't think of any else that could do that. Even if someone that you love hurts you, that it never just stops. It's still it's still there just as much as before, except now with the addition of all these other complicated, painful feelings. And I think that's why it's so difficult for us when we do lose people, because we are so attached, and of course we're not expecting to lose someone. We're mortal. We're supposed to go on like all things, there's expectation to one's emotions. If you're expecting that you're going to have what's a common pet for a person. Let's just say a bird. Some types of birds only live about 5 or 10 years. So when you're getting attached, that's the point in which you're going to have to learn how to let go. There's that pain is going to be there. Not to say that it's not worthwhile to still have that love and bond with a pet, and of course you're going to, but that inevitable point of the end of that thing that you love's life is always there in your head. You're aware of it coming. You can sort of prepare for it in a way, not to say that everyone necessarily does, but at the moment that you make that bond, you're aware that you are creating this bond with a mortal creature, and that there's a point where one of you will cease to be. For elves, we don't have that. And I think that's why so many of us will not end up in relationships with mortals, because to give your heart to someone, that's forever, like forever, ever, not just until death do us part. I'm talking forever. And so, our personal cultural expectations of love is this never-ending, never-ceasing joy that's going to be there. It's going to be a constant as long as you draw breath. And I think it's difficult probably for a mortal to sort of understand this, just as it's very difficult for us to understand the love of mortals in the same way. But the love that we have, it never diminishes. It can't. Even if there's some reason that causes us to dislike the person that we love, that love is never going to be any less strong. It's just an additional hatred or depression or whatever else there is that's going to go along with it. And so I think it's a lot more complicated. You can't sort of replace one emotion with the other, which it seems like mortals can do. So it's very tricky, and this isn't really describing love, just sort of the way that one loves. And so I'm sort of not even answering your question. So what is love? I mean, it's that increase in your heartbeat when you think of the other person, even for a moment. It's the breath that you hold when you see their face light up with a smile. It's that ache in your heart when you see that they're suffering anything, even small things. It's wanting to become something better than who you are, to want to not just be yourself, but be yourself in their life. I'm not doing this any justice. I'm being completely inarticulate, but that's sort of what love is. It can't truly be articulated in words in any language that I know of. It's just the way that your body reacts to another person completely, mentally, emotionally, physically. And it can, as I say, it can be someone that you just, well, it's like you fit somehow. There's that part of your very soul that seems just made to be. It's as if there was an element of fate to it. I'm not sure if there is or not, but it makes you feel like there is. And it never goes away. It's always there, even after millennia. It still lingers. It makes you want to protect them. It makes you do things you would never ever do on your own. Things that your parents never wanted you to do, that's for sure. It just kind of is all-consuming, and no matter how much you rationalize it out, it's still there. It never goes away. I don't know how to describe this, darling. I don't have a poet's tongue to just roll out with all the beauty that love is, and nor the ugliness that comes with it. So I'm just going to stop, and I do hope I answered it a little bit, at least to your satisfaction, darling. So thank you so much for asking, and have a good night. Ta-ta.